Let us listen deeply, as we continue our reading of Part 3 of the Tannisho, Episodes 15 to 18. Part 3. 15. On the assertion that one attains enlightenment even while maintaining this bodily existence full of blind passions. This statement is completely absurd. The attainment of Buddhahood with this very body is the essence of the Shingon esoteric teaching. It is the realization achieved through the three kinds of mystic acts. The purification of the six sense organs is the one vehicle teaching of the Lotus Sutra. It is the virtue acquired through the four practices of repose. These are both ways of difficult practice to be followed by those of superior capacity. They lead to the enlightenment realized through fulfilling contemplative practice. Attaining enlightenment in the coming life is the essence of the Pure Land teaching of other power. It is the principle actualized through the settlement of shinjin. This is the way of easy practice to be followed by those of inferior capacity. It is the teaching that makes no distinction between the good and the evil. Since it is extremely difficult to free oneself from blind passions and the hindrances of karmic evil in this life, even the virtuous monks who practice the Shingon and Tendai teachings pray for enlightenment in the next life. In our case, what more need be said? We lack both the observance of precepts and the comprehension of wisdom, but when, by allowing ourselves to be carried on the ship of Amida's vow, we have crossed this ocean of suffering that is birth and death and attain the shore of the Pure Land, the dark clouds of blind passions will swiftly clear and the moon of enlightenment, true reality, will immediately appear. Becoming one with the unhindered light filling the 10 quarters, we will benefit all sentient beings. It is at that moment that we attain enlightenment. To those who speak of realizing enlightenment while in this bodily existence manifest various accommodated bodies, possess the Buddha's 32 features and 80 marks, and preach the Dharma to benefit beings like Shakyamuni, it is this that is meant by realizing enlightenment in this life. It is stated in a hymn, "When the time comes for shinjin, indestructible as diamond, to become settled, Amida grasps and protects us with compassion and light, so that we may part forever from birth and death." This means that at the moment shinjin becomes settled, we are grasped, never to be abandoned, and therefore we will not transmigrate further in the 6 courses. Only then do we part forever from birth and death. Should such awareness be confusedly termed attaining enlightenment? It is regrettable that such misunderstanding should arise. The late Master said, "According to the true essence of the Pure Land way, one entrusts oneself to the primal vow in this life and realizes enlightenment in the Pure Land. This is the teaching I received." 16. On the assertion that whenever practitioners of shinjin happen to become angry, or commit some misdeed, or dispute with fellow practitioners, they must without fail go through a change of heart. This appears to reflect an attitude of seeking to attain birth by desisting from evil and performing good. For the person or wholehearted single practice of the Nembutsu, change of heart occurs only once. People who have in ordinary life been ignorant of the true essence of the primal vow, which is other power, come to realize, through receiving Amida's wisdom, that they cannot attain birth with the thoughts and feelings they have harbored up to then, so they abandon their former heart and mind and entrust themselves to the primal vow. This is what is meant by change of heart. Suppose that attainment of birth were possible only by going through changes of heart day and night with every incident that occurred. In that case, human life being such that it is ends even before breath exhaled can be drawn in again if we were to die without going through a change of heart and without abiding in a state of gentleness and forbearance, would not Amida's vow that grasps and never abandons us be rendered meaningless? Some claim with their lips that they entrust themselves to the power of the vow and yet harbor in their hearts the thought that, even though the vow to save the evil is said to be beyond conceptual understanding, after all it saves the good person in particular, thus, doubting the power of the vow, they lack the mind of entrusting themselves to other power, and are destined for birth in the borderland. How lamentable this is! If shinjin has become settled, birth will be brought about by Amida's design, so there must be no calculating on our part. Even when we are evil, if we revere the power of the vow all the more deeply, gentle-heartedness and forbearance will surely arise in us through its spontaneous working, jinin. With everything we do, as far as birth is concerned, we should constantly and fervently call to mind Amida's immense benevolence without any thought of being wise. Then the Nembutsu will indeed emerge. This is Ginin. Our not calculating is called Ginin. It is itself other power. It seems, however, that there are people who knowingly declare that Jinin has a different meaning. This is deplorable. 17. On the assertion that a person born in the borderland will in the end fall into hell. In what authoritative passage do we find such a statement? It is deplorable that this is being maintained by people who pretend to be scholars. How are they reading the sutras, treatises, and other sacred writings? I was taught that practitioners who lack shinjin are born in the borderland because of their doubt concerning the primal vow, and that, after the evil of doubt has been expiated, they realize enlightenment in the fulfilled land. Since practitioners of shinjin are few, many are guided to the transformed land. To declare, despite this, that birth there will ultimately end in vain would be to accuse Shakyamuni of lying. 18. On the assertion that the size of we become as Buddhas depends on the amount of our donations to the Sangha. This is totally absurd and nonsensical. To begin with, is it not impossible to determine the size of a Buddha? Although the height of Amida, the master of the teaching in the pure land of peace, is stated in sutras, this refers to a form of the fulfilled body of compassionate means. A Buddha, having been awakened to the enlightenment of Dharma nature, has no form, long or short, square or round, and no color, blue, white, or black. How then can the size be determined? It is stated, in sutras, that in saying the Nembutsu, one upholds a transformed Buddha. Concerning this, it is written, in scriptures, that with a great Nembutsu one sees a great Buddha and with a small Nembutsu one sees a small Buddha. Perhaps the above assertion has been wrongly linked to this idea. Further, it may be possible to say that making offerings is the practice of the paramita of charity. But however precious a treasure one may offer before the Buddha or give to a teacher, it is meaningless if one lacks shinjin. And even though one may not make a donation of even a single sheet of paper or half a penny to the Sangha, if one yields one's heart to other power and one's shinjin is deep, one is in accord with the essential intent of the vow. Is it not after all that those people seek to intimidate their fellow practitioners, using the Buddha's teaching as a pretext and being moved by mundane desires? Postscript: every one of the assertions discussed above appears to arise out of divergences from shinjin. As the late master once related, in Master Hunen's day, among his many disciples there were few who were of the same shinjin as Hunen, and because of this, Shinran became involved in a debate with some fellow practitioners. It happened in this way. Shinran remarked, "My shinjin and the masters are one." Yuien-Bo, Nembutsu-Bo, and others among his fellow practitioners strongly argued, "How can your shinjin be the same as the master's?" Shinran responded, "The master possesses vast wisdom and learning, so I would be mistaken if I claimed to be the same in those respects, but in shinjin, that is the cause of birth, there is no difference whatever. The master's shinjin and mine are one and the same." The others remained skeptical, however, asking how that could be. So finally they all decided that the argument should be brought before Hunen to determine which side was right. When they presented the details of the matter, Master Hunen said, "My shinjin has been given by Amida, so has that of Zenshin Bao, Shinran. Therefore they are one and the same. A person with a different shinjin will surely not go to the pure land to which I will go." Thus, it seems likely that among people of the wholehearted, single practice now also, there are those not one in shinjin with Shinran. Although all of the above are repetitions of the same words, I record them here. While the dew of life barely clings to this withered leaf of grass that I am, I can lend an ear to the uncertainties of the people who accompany me along the way and relate to them what Master Shinran said. But I lament that after my eyes close, there will almost certainly be confusion concerning the teaching. When you are confused by people who discuss such views as those noted above, carefully read the sacred writings that accord with the late Master's thoughts and that he himself used to read. In the scriptures in general, the true and real and the accommodated and provisional are mixed. That we abandon the accommodated and take up the real, set aside the provisional and adopt the true is the Master's fundamental intent. You must under no circumstances misread the sacred writings. I have selected several important authoritative passages and appended them to this volume as a standard. The Master would often say, "When I consider deeply the vow of Amida, which arose from 5 kalpas of profound thought, I realize that it was entirely for the sake of myself alone. Then how I am filled with gratitude for the primal vow, in which Amida resolved to save me, though I am burdened with such heavy karma." Reflecting once more on this expression of Shinran's inmost thoughts, I find that his does not differ in the least from those precious words of Shantao. "Know yourself to be a foolish being of karmic evil caught in birth and death, ever sinking and ever wandering in transmigration from innumerable kalpas in the past, with never a condition that would lead to emancipation." Thus how grateful I feel for Shinran's words, in which he gives himself as an example in order to make us realize we are in delusion, knowing nothing at all of the depths of our karmic evil or the vastness of Amida's benevolence. In truth, myself and others discuss only good and evil, leaving Amida's benevolence out of consideration. Among Master Shinran's words were, "I know nothing at all of good or evil. For if I could know thoroughly, as Amida Tathagata knows, that an act was good, then I would know good. If I could know thoroughly, as the Tathagata knows, that an act was evil, then I would know evil. But with the foolish being full of blind passions, in this fleeting world, this burning house, all matters without exception are empty and false, totally without truth and sincerity. The Nembutsu alone is true and real. Indeed, I myself and others speak only falsehoods to each other. In this, there is a truly regrettable thing. When, regarding our saying of the Nembutsu, we discuss the nature of shinjin or explain it to people, we ascribe to Shinran even words he never spoke in order to silence others and to settle controversies with our own opinions. This is indeed saddening and deplorable. This matter should be carefully pondered and understood. These are by no means my own words, but since I do not know the lines of discourse in the sutras and commentaries and cannot understand or discern the profundity of the scriptural writings, undoubtedly they seem foolish. Nevertheless, recalling 100th part only a fragment of what the late Shinran said, I write it down. How sad it would be to abide in the borderland instead of being born directly into the fulfilled land, even though one has the fortune of saying the Nembutsu. That there be no differing of shinjin among the fellow practices, I take my brush with tear in my eyes and record this. Let the title be Tannisho, a record in lament of divergences, from true shinjin. It should not be shown about indiscriminately. Here completes our reading of the Tannisho, from the collected works of Shinran. May all who have read along with us, benefited from this inspiring text, and aspire for birth in Amida Buddha's land of peace and happiness. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu.